In my recent Schranz tutorial, I showed you 3 rather advanced production techniques to make your beats sound aggressive, rhythmic and full. In that video we have been working on a already developed beat with kick drum and percussion, but what if you don't have any Schranz beat to begin with? To answer that question, I invited to my channel GWELD, a DJ and producer straight from Netherlands. His most popular track is the Schranz remix of Pump It by Black Eyed Peas, but you can also know him from his hard techno releases on Altruism or OB's definition of hard techno label. In today's tutorial, GWELD will show us how does he approach producing a new Schranz track. Starting from an empty project and finishing with a simple arrangement with driving kick and bassline, percussion and vocal chops. The project GWELD made for today's video is free to download from my website, where you will also find my hard/industrial techno sample and serum preset packs.
I always start my tracks with the kick and bass, so I already picked out a kick. It's from an old Vengeance sample pack, the Essentials Club Volume 2. It's a pack that is used by a lot of Schranz producers, and it just has those classic sounds you need, but it's not like processed, so you still have a lot of room to play with the sounds. Let me set a tempo. I like fast BPMs lately, so I'll do 155. Kick, it's nice and punchy, and there's some sort of tail that gives a little texture.
Okay. Vengeance kick drums often have some maybe tails that with some hi-hats, or most of these samples sound like they were indeed cut out from some other tracks. I mean, what do I mean is that these samples are not indeed very clean, and they have quite a lot of noise in the background. So I guess that for Schranz type of beat where everything is later heavily compressed and distorted, this is actually helpful, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like the tail you can hear, like it's like a bit stereo, and that's kind of what you want a little bit. So you can keep the kick mono, the sub, and like the tail has a little bit of stereo width.
Okay.
So I use let me search. Yeah, a kick rumble like preset thing I got from another YouTube account.
Audio React.
Yeah, exactly, Audio React, and it was just a free download, and it's just makes the workflow a bit quicker.
Okay, is that rack a typical reverb rumble rack?
Yeah, it's a typical, just standards, but it just makes it a bit faster for me. So I'll set the sidechain.
Okay, so it's interesting actually that for Schranz type of beats we will be using a reverb rumble to create the bass line. Are there any benefits to that over, for example, making a bass line sound by resampling the kick drum itself, so by maybe trimming the sample and using a low pass filter? So something what Klankenster could do when he produces hard techno?
Yeah, so I use both of those methods. I use the reverb, I use a delay rumble, and I'll sometimes use like a cutout and like duplicate it.
I see.
But the reverb rumble for me gives the most like full low end, and especially you want like the low mids, and I just found like with a reverb rumble you get that sound the easiest. And I also like the old school Schranz sound, and you hear that a lot in those old school tracks. You hear like a little bit of that reverb rumble effect, so I'll just always keep that in mind.
Okay. So with that, yes?
Yeah, I always think about like how did they made it like 10 years ago when producing was a little bit simpler. Now we get a lot more technical. So I used to try to think like as simple as possible for my sound.
Okay. Do you remember maybe from where exactly did you download that track? Because maybe some of the viewers will be interested in getting that too and playing around. We can see the rack name. It's All You Need Is Live Kick Verb Rumble, if I see well. And okay, inside of that, we start out with the delay. And what about the other devices that are currently folded?
So the delay is now turned off. This is the reverb, an amp, like an R-bass style corpus. Is this? Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And then a sidechain. This is like the cutoff for the sidechain, and mono utility.
All right, that's great.
So close this back up. Let me first do the sidechain. So I like to have more mids in my rumble, just not cut out all the mids, just only the sub, but I like more mids. So I'll usually go to like 300 hertz, 350 hertz.
Yeah, exactly. Regardless of what we will use, whether it is a separate bass sound or maybe a reverb rumble, indeed, there is indeed a need to fill the frequency area from, let's say, 100 hertz up to 300 to make the track indeed sound full and warm. Especially you can hear that well in Schranz beats. And that's, I guess that's how we are exactly going to use that rumble rack.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'll also do like a delay rumble, but I only like will want that like low mids rumbling. So I just got a delay, and then with like Command G or Control G, you can make a group, and then you can like chain it. So this is the dry signal, and there's a delay, and then also make that mono, and grab like the same compressor. So this is the signal that's left. A little amp on it. Yeah, something like this.
Could we once again compare what does the kick and bass sound right now with and without that extra delay rack you have just added?
Yeah, so this is without, and this is with.
Okay, great.
Gives it a little roll.
Yeah, an extra rhythm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Probably a common question that is asked is whether we should use the delay as the first effect or the reverb. What is your opinion on that? Do you always put a delay rack before the reverb one, or you feel like it doesn't matter?
I mean, it doesn't really matter in this case. It sounds kind of the same, but I like the rolling thingy, like that it goes into the reverb, so it's a little bit more like glued into the sound.
Yeah, that from the theoretical point of view, that would make sense because the delay signal gets also reverbed later.
Yeah, exactly. So now I'm cutting out like the unnecessary low end, a little dip around 150, because it's getting a bit too much, and then a little boost for the punch.
Okay, exactly.
Quite simple. So now maybe.
Do you always do that high cut at around 30 Hz to clean up the low end?
Not always, because it will like switch up your phasing. So sometimes it doesn't sound good, but in this case it sounds good. It's put the focus a little bit more on that low mids.
Okay.
So maybe I wanna do a little extra punch.
Okay,
Maybe.
since we will be now layering the kick drums, do you have some tips for kick drum layering? For example, what were you thinking about now when you were choosing a second kick sample?
Yeah, so this one, the main kick we now have, in my opinion, could use a little bit more of that knock. So I'm trying to find like a kick that has that little bit like lower knock. So, and then this may be a bit too short. Maybe not this one. Maybe more something like this. A little bit higher. So, and then I like try to change flip this the phasing to see if that sounds any better. So I have a lot more punch without flipping the phase. It takes away the punch, and like it doesn't. You don't have to do that for like every kick. Sometimes you just layer them and it sounds good, but if you think like if you layer something and you think, hey, this is taking away low end, then you might have to check the phasing.
Okay. Someone else could try to high pass the kick layer you have just added, and instead of that you are flipping the phase through the utility, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You could also like pitch it around or just try different stuff, but the phasing is something I always check.
Okay. And how do you judge or listen to the kick drum to indeed assess whether the kick is still punchy after such layering? Because with the equalization, it is a very safe option. You high pass a kick drum at 300 Hz, we are talking about the kick drum layer, and you are sure that there are not going to be any phasing issues within the low end. Now with the phase flipping through utility, the phase is probably, yes, flipped by just 180 degrees, but how do you judge whether indeed this works? Is there any way to listen to the kick drum to think whether it sounds okay or not, whether there are not any low-end issues?
Well, yeah, I just really like use my air, and if it sounds good, it sounds good. And most of the time I have like a span, my master, where I will check the low end to see like if it has enough. But for like this stage of producing, I don't worry about it too much. Like if it sounds good right now, it's okay for me. And later on, when I have like the percussion and all the other stuff, and it maybe has a bit too much sub or too less, then I'll go back and add some more or take away some sub.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so now I grouped them together. Just lower the volume. Yeah, something like that. And like one plugin I use a lot for gluing stuff together, like especially kicks, is this one, Magnetic 2.
By Nomad Factory.
Yeah, exactly. It's like yeah, like a sort of saturation, like drum bus kind of plugin, I think. You can probably get the same results with drum bus like from Ableton, but I just like using this one because it's simple. It says just a few knobs, and so I will put the reel on like the I don't know, dash. Otherwise, it takes some high end away, and then I'll just boost the saturation until it sounds like nice and full and glued together. Yeah, something like that.
Okay, basing on what does this plugin look like, it is probably just a tube or tape saturation effect, right?
Yeah, I think you can hear switch to tube tape and tube tape, and then if the color you can switch as well. But I don't really use this. I only use like this one and sometimes like a little low end or high end boost.
Okay, and this is used for both gluing the kick drum and the bass we have so far already, and maybe to make the whole kick and bass sound a bit warmer, because that will be the consequence of using a saturation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it for me it gives like that nice warmth, and I think I use this like on every kick I make, like every kick.
Okay, could we once again get a listen on what does the kick sound like with and without that Magnetic 2 effect?
Yeah, so this is with and without. So like as you can see, like on the right, it doesn't like make a big volume difference, but still sounds fuller.
Yeah, it seems like that reverb rumble you have created in the beginning seems to be more upfront.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just a little bit more gain going in the plugin to make it like really like compressed. Yeah, for now, that's really it for the kick.
Okay, and if
Yeah.
we were to maybe make a full mixdown of this track, assuming you later add the whole percussion and some vocals or synthesizers as well, would you keep using saturation and distortion effects on the kick drum? Would we add something extra? And if yes, would that be added on individual kick sounds or in the group processing we have right now?
Like I always like group the kick and the Schranz percussion together, and then I'll probably move this one to that group and do some more distortion so the kick stays like pretty clean.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that much to it. It's for me the most important thing is like distorting and compressing it together with like the percussion and hi-hats and stuff.
Yes, so that's why we are saturating the group, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And also, it seems like through using a saturation on the group instead of just a kick drum sound, you are making the kick drum itself sound cleaner. Because if we used the same distortion effect on the kick drum sound only, probably the kick would sound more dirty and distorted, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so for now this is fine for me. So I'll go and start with the percussion. So I got most of my like Schranz percussion loops thingies out of the same pack, the Vengeance Essentials.
For similar reasons we have been talking about when choosing a kick sample.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll try like most of the time I have like around 8 to 10 different loops or cuts from loops. And I'll try to find like some for the mids, some for the highs, and like some with like unique sounds in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my way of my process.
So,
All right.
when choosing the hi-hat loops for the percussion, we will need 3 different types of loops. Some of them are going to fill only the higher frequencies areas. Some of them will fill the lower ones or just the mids, and this will require another type of loops. And the third type of loop we will be looking for is something with a indeed unique sound, so something that is going to give the whole percussion more character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I scrolled through them pretty fast because I only like really care about the first count.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the time that's like the part I'll cut out and repeat. Maybe something like this one. And I'll only use like the first part. And let me make already a group. And for sidechaining the percussion, I use Kickstart. I've always used Kickstart, like back when I made Big Room and other EDM stuff. Kickstart was always the way to go, so I'm still used to it, and that's why I still use it.
Yes, and it also looks simple.
Yeah, it's simple. That's right. Yeah. And I still want a little bit of that, like that first part, so I'll like do the dry wet, the mix a bit down.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is some nice like, higher one, but I still want the really highs for like the hi-hat and the rides. So I'll just cut it out a little bit. Somewhere around this.
Okay, and what is that going to sound like with and without that high cut?
So this is without. So just like that really like nasty high end that like tingles your ear, that's what I'm gonna cut out.
Okay, exactly.
Yeah, so like this one has a nice like perk thingy. The toot right there.
I will refer back to that high cut you made on the previous loop because I remember that one of the things people wanted to know is how to make that Schranz beat sound not too bright, yes, but yet still clean. So we could consider that low pass filter one of the things we want to pay attention to, yes, to make a cut somewhere at, for example, 15K.
Yeah, exactly, because you're gonna um like add a lot of these loops and stuff, and or also the ride and hi-hat, and those are gonna have those really high frequencies. So when you stack too much of them, it's gonna sound too nasty, too dirty. So to prevent that, I use like this little high cut.
Yeah, we could hear how does it work, how did that work with a single loop, so we can imagine how large of an effect it would have if we used such a high cut on all these 8 drum loops you
Yeah,
want to use in the end.
exactly. So now this is like a typical loop that is like for the uniqueness of it. Um, I only want this, and I'll cut out the low end, but keep like a little bit of those mids. And I'll again, there's a little hi-hat in there. I want to get rid of a little bit. So. And then to boost that little like high perk thingy that's in there, I'll use ProQ3. And I'll find like the frequency where it's at. So like that's one. And right there. And then I'll use like the dynamic of it. So it gets boosted more when that sound is playing, and when the sound is not playing, it doesn't get boosted as much.
Okay.
So like it keeps the rest of the loop
Because
cleaner.
otherwise, if we use the static equalizer, then probably we will make the percussion sound either too bright or just not clean enough. And I am again referencing to what people wanted to know.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. And maybe can have a little bit of reverb. Yeah, something like that. It's fine for me. Let me put a limiter on that real quick. Yeah. All right. On to the next one. Yeah. And this one doesn't really have that really eerie high end, so I just don't have to cut that much. So this one is a bit more, has a bit more noise. So to clean it up a little bit, I'll use like this beats effect to like kind of transient shape it. Like you can really make it sound tiny.
Mm-hmm. So just like a gate effect.
Yeah, something like a gate transient shaper kind of thing. It takes those points to shape it on that. And you could also set it to like 1/16 and get the same kind of result, or 1/8 if you want that. But most of the time transients works fine. Just shorten it a little bit. Maybe this part of the loop sounds better. Yeah, that's a bit more of what I'm going for. So this one I can use, I think, a little bit more for the mids. Yeah, like this last part. That's a bit more low end, a bit more mids. So it really boosts that like low mids kind of area.
Yeah,
without
exactly.
it being like really upfront. And that's what a lot of people forget, is like the mids are really important for a good like full mix.
Yes, and as of now we are not only making use of that reverb rumble rack on the kick drum, but now we are also looking for appropriate hi-hat loops that would fill the mid end even more.
Yes, exactly. maybe something. There's a bit of panning, but just make. Yeah. So this one already has like a little bit of that destroyed, like distorted sound in it. Yeah, we could use it like in the background. Yeah, this one also has like those mids and low ends. Let me boost it. My headphones don't go that high in volume, so. Yeah. Let's see. Maybe this one. So now I'm listening to it. I don't think this is the right one, so it goes out. Like for me, it's really going a lot of back and forth between all sounds, like especially after you add all the compression of or the distortion and it compresses it, so like those weird sounds come more to the front. Then I'll think like maybe it's not the right choice for this, and then I'll delete it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think I have enough now. Yeah, so that's pretty much like how I choose the loops. And then I'll try to find like some like percussion, just one shots. I'll like reverse them to like make those like sweeping sounds. That's like something like that. It sounds like a clap being distorted with some reverb. So probably could make that myself, but this sounds fine for now. Yeah. Maybe try a little bit more distortion.
Will we be also looking for individual hi-hat or clap sounds to add into this whole group?
Yeah, so for now this is like only the loops, and then in another group I'll do like the hi-hats and rides and claps. I don't use claps that often in my tracks, but sometimes they can add a nice groove. So yeah. All right, so that's pretty much it for the sound selection for the Schranz layer. I'll probably go back after all the distortion and like maybe add something or delete something or change something, but for now it's enough.
Okay. Regarding creating the rhythm and groove for the beat, is there anything else you are going to do, or is that everything now for, let's say, this aspect of beat creation?
For what? Sorry.
I was thinking of what would you try to do if you decide that this beat is not yet rhythmic enough. Is there anything else you would try as well? Some maybe extra tricks or techniques?
Yes. Resample the group, and I'll use that same technique of doing like the transients and making them shorter, so I can get like a little bit more of that rolling sound. And I'll also what I haven't done right now, but something I do a lot is take this part of the kick and make like that roll.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want like around the 100 hertz area. And I'll layer that underneath the percussion to make it like fuller. Like you hear the difference, right?
Yeah, I settled.
Yeah. And especially when you go distorting, like the more low end you add, you like feed the distortion, the more it's gonna like give that real crunch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always something I keep in mind when distorting. Like, if I really want that crunch, I need a lot of low end in before the distortion. So sometimes I'll even add like EQ before the distortion, boost the low end, and then afterwards an EQ and like lower the low end again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, could we hear how the percussion is going to sound like if you indeed export it or just resample and make use of that warping thing where
Yeah.
you made the warping work like the gate effect for enhancing the percussion rhythm?
Sorry. So this is the loop we have right now. And then like something like this, and then I'll like distort this a little bit more, and I'll like add it with this group, but just lower this one again in volume. So
Mm-hmm.
you still have the like fullness of this one, and this one is giving like a bit more rhythm. So probably like strong channel. This one. That's loud. So yeah, it adds a little bit more like attack on the percussion, like a I don't know the right word for it, but
Maybe it helps making that percussion sounds more aggressive because with that gated loop, it seems like there is more noise in the percussion. And
yeah.
because of that warping mode you have used, this loop is going to have a different rhythm. So we could also say that this resampled loop indeed enhances the rhythm of the whole beat.
Yeah. And you could also use it on like 1/16 too. Like that, this is probably a better sound that I'm looking for.
Okay.
Yeah, it gives it a little bit more of that 16th roll, I think.
And currently, this resampled loop, it doesn't seem to have any sidechain compression on it. So here's the question: do you always use on all like hi-hat loops a sidechain compression, or are some of the elements left untouched without that
No,
compression?
I recorded this group like with the sidechain on it.
Ah,
So
yes, of course.
it has it a little bit, but I still like want it a bit open in the front.
Okay, but so it is not like you are, for example, adding an extra hi-hat loop that doesn't have any sidechain compression at all.
No, not really. I always use the sidechain. And when like in breaks or like little fills, I'll like turn it off with
Mhm.
automation. But when the kick is playing, I really want that like pump in, like that sidechain.
Okay. Were you also trying to use sidechain on, for example, a rumble reverb or on that delay thing we have added in the group processing before? Does that work for you or not?
Like without a sidechain compression, or
Yes.
um,
Because yeah, now I can see that indeed in that delay rack there is a sidechain compression, but
yeah,
if I remember well, there isn't any on the reverb rumble one.
yeah, the reverb has also one right here.
Oh, okay, sorry, my mistake.
Yeah,
I don't
no
know these
problem.
racks well.
No problem. No, I always like on the rumble and on the percussion, I always use sidechain.
Okay, so
Yeah.
probably now.
Okay, I'm quite happy with the sounds.
So probably now we will be moving on to the distortion of the hi-hat loops, if I
Yeah.
remember well. Okay.
So yeah, I'll first do like only the loops and then like group them together and do a bit more work together with the kick.
Oh, and that's going to be also an interesting part, but I will ask some of the questions once we will be working indeed with that whole group of both percussion and the kick drum. Now let's see what we will be doing with the hi-hat loops.
Yeah. The first step, I use an amp from just the Ableton amp. I like the sound and it's simple and everybody has it, so I thought it was the easiest to use right now. That's a bit harsh. And now I never use it on 100%. I always use it like a little bit, but you can get like some phasing when using the dry wet with this one. So I'll just play around with it, like the volume, and until it just sounds fine for me. Maybe it's like still phasing a little bit, but like I said, if it sounds good, it is good. So
And what if we used after the amp the utility and try to flip the phase as you did? Ah, no, because you would have to use the amp in the parallel processing rack.
yeah. So then I have to make a rack and do that. That's also like an option, but most of the time, this just playing around with it until it doesn't. It's like fine. So for now, it just really gives it that body because I took away like the high end.
Yeah, and also it doesn't sound like indeed a phasing is audible.
No, right. Maybe a drum bass after. Yes, that again, the mids and lows really brings those out. So probably have to EQ it right now. And again, a little bit out of the high end. Don't really need this layer right now for this sound, but to show it's an option, like
Yes, that was just the
yeah,
purpose of that sound.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm quite happy with the sounds. Like it's nice and full and rolling. So now I'll go to the main group progressing.
Yes, and
And
there's actually the first question. On both kick and percussion group, we have already used some saturation, for example. So now in that main group where you have grouped both groups, are you going to use even more distortion, or is there going to be any other type of effect used? Maybe like multiband compression or something like that. How is that going to look like? If you could, let's say, foreshadow it,
yeah,
describe what
so
is going to happen in the next few minutes.
probably like a bit more of saturation and EQing. Then maybe like a little bit more of compression, and then I'll use a clipper plugin to like hard clip it and drive it into that clipper to really get that crunch and glue it together.
Mm-hmm.
And that really makes the difference for the sound. I think the clipper is like one of the most important ones uh, for the sound. So yeah.
So it definitely does not on. It does pay off to not only group process the kick and rumble and group process the hi-hats, it also worth to again create an extra group on top and try to add even more glue to the beat that way.
Yeah, exactly. Just like quickly name it so it's a bit more easier to see. But yeah, exactly. So you can't really like fix the sound like only in this like in the main group if it's not like sounding good before you send it to it, like if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like you the like your sounds just have to be nice like on its own, and then together it's okay, and then you can add like plugins just to glue it together. But you can't really fix like if you want the perks to be a lot more distort, then it's better to distort them on their own and then uh, send them to the main group.
Yes, or an
Because
opposite example would be where you did not use hi-hat loops that fill the high frequencies area, because then you could imagine that once you group both hi-hats with kick and rumble, and on that group you try to use the amp to make the whole beat sound brighter, in the end you would end up with just something that's probably over distorted and too crunchy. But of course, you would get, yes, a bright sound, but this would be also over distorted. And that would be one of the examples of what you are thinking of, so
yeah,
that we have to make the individual elements work well at first.
yeah, exactly. So when I add those like hi-hats and rides later, they won't be too bright, too distorted.
So it seems like things start to get complex because you have to think of how many saturation or just processing go into either each individual channels or group of channels. How do you know how heavily you want to, for example, process the main group you have just created, and how heavily you want to process the kick and rumble group, or the group with percussion sounds only?
Um, that's a good question. Yeah. So, um, for the percussion, it just depends on like what kind of track you're going for, of course. So like for my sound, I like it, um, distorted, but still like noticeable, like not that it's gonna be like one like giant white noise thing.
Okay.
So I'll try to get there already in this group, but keeping in my head, I'm gonna still like do a little bit of distortion later, so I don't do too much. I don't go over the top, so that's why there's no clipping on this channel, and that's why like the amp is like turned down a little bit, and I'm being quite careful with the drum bus because I know I'm gonna do it later. Again, yeah. And for the kick, yeah, if you distort the kick too much, you're gonna take away the low end, and that's really something you really need. So I'll keep the kick pretty clean, and then the distortion is really coming from like the perk loops, the hi-hat loops, and like the main group processing.
Okay. We have heard earlier, almost an hour ago, what did the kick sound like with and without that magnetic 2 saturation effect. Could we now play the whole beat and also turn on and off all the saturation and distortion effects you added on the Percussion group, so one could see more or less for how much distortion you want to apply on these perk sounds if someone wants to create a Schranz beat in a similar style?
Yeah, so now I have like the magnetic on the kick turned off and the amp and drum bus on the percussion turned off. So then like you can hear like it's too much all over the place. It doesn't really sit right with each other.
Yeah,
And
and
now,
that's still with the sidechain compression
yeah,
left.
yeah. Now it's a bit more glued together. Yeah. And really more focused on the mids. That's also the like what I do with the distortion. Yeah. Okay. So now I'll try maybe another magnetic. All right. Maybe the kick a bit more.
I would have another question regarding the Perk Schranz group distortion. Would that be good to say that you want to use as much distortion on that group as long as it doesn't make these percussion sounds audibly distorted? Because currently, if you exported this track and sent that to me or just some other person, I would not say that the hi-hats seem to be distorted. But now when we play the beat in Ableton and turn on and off both amp with drum brass, we can clearly hear that the percussion sounds are of course glued less, they sound less full. So would that be a good rule of thumb to distort the percussion sounds as long as it is not obvious that some crunch is added?
Yeah. That's a good rule of thumb. Yeah, but it also depends on if you want that to be the sound of the track.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I really wanted that like really harsh, really fast, like Schranz, then I'll probably add more distortion on the perks. before. Because if you're gonna add too much distortion in this group, if you really want that sound and you want to do it in the group, you're gonna take away the sub from the kick. So it's better to do that on the perks. But like for my sound, for this sound, I don't want it too much distorted.
Yeah, exactly. Especially
Yeah,
since we want to make a bit more rhythmic Schranz beat.
exactly. Yeah. And also, like after I glue this together, I'm gonna add like the hi-hat and the ride, and the ride's gonna be distorted as well. So the ride is really important for that distorted sound as well. Like without the ride, it doesn't sound. The ride adds sort of like a distortion effect as well, like on the whole group, but it's just right. It's like a little bit of an illusion.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, so yeah. So now I do a little bit of EQing in the sides because I thought it was like a little bit too wide in the low, yeah, like the mids and the low end. So I cut out the sides like till like 300 hertz almost,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
then a little dip like in the mids, low mids. Makes it a bit cleaner. And
Yeah,
also like a little
definitely
dip around
cutting
200.
out that low end from the sides is going to help make the beat sound cleaner indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
also,
also,
basing on what does this filter is set up, we could say that not only just the low end of the kick drum is cut from the sides, but also after using this high cut filter, we will not hear much of that rumble reverb group or the sound coming from the delay rack you had on the kick drum on the side part of the mix.
yeah, exactly. So you want it there, you want you want to have it there because if I'll just make it completely mono, then it's gonna sound really dull. But it shouldn't be really noticeable. Like uh, you want it to be there. Like if you take it away, you're gonna miss it. But if you won't hear it like when you play the track.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. And that could lead us to another question. Do you always keep the low frequencies in mono? Or maybe you do keep all the frequencies under, let's say, 200 Hz in mono when producing Schranz?
yeah. So for Schranz, I'll do it quite high, so like around 250, 200 to 250 hertz. I'll keep everything mono. For like other genres, you can like go lower, like 100 hertz, or like you could have your bass, your sub stereo. I've seen guys do that, but for me, like to make it just my life easier, I'll do it in mono, like
Mm-hmm.
everything under 250 hertz. Just a good rule of thumb to do it until there. Like you could go to 100, but I want that like that those like low mids rumble also kind of mono. So I'll go a bit higher. Mhm. Yeah, so add a little bit more sub. So now for the clipper, I use standard clip, Shure Audio Tools. Yeah, a friend of mine recommended it, and it works fine for me. So sounds good, and you have the option to like hard clip or soft clip.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
this is this important indeed to make use of hard clip mode indeed. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because that otherwise it's just like sort of more like heavy compressor because it still keeps like the round shape of the sine wave, and hard clip just cuts it off completely, and that gives like that distortion you want. So now you can hear the distortion, right?
Yes, I bet.
Yeah.
But honestly speaking, it sounds more like more glue is added instead of again adding some audible distortion.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. But for me, for now, it's like enough. So for me to add like the right and um, hi-hats, and then um, when I have those in place and distorted, then I'll go back and figure out like how much more distortion I want uh, in my sound.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So let me get a open hat. Um,
It's also interesting that you were browsing some of the Kashmir sample packs, and he is just an EDM music producer, so it seems like you could say that it doesn't matter much what is the genre of the sample pack.
no, no, not really. Like the Kashmir Sempec has like really high quality drum samples and also like weird effects and stuff. I get a lot of inspiration from. So you don't have to have only techno sample packs to make techno. You can like make it with almost every sample pack, I think, if you want.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I have this.
Also, you wouldn't probably get this sort of sounds from Vengeance packs. This open hi-hat seems much cleaner. I mean, too clean for a typical Vengeance sound.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So I take away a little bit of attack because I think it's a bit too much, and I'll do something like this. To create more of that like Schranz sound.
This is okay, one more thing, because I'm interested in how the beat would sound like if now you turned off these small clips on the hi-hat you added. So you play the hi-hat sample, yes, and later you have the reversed part of it. What would
Yeah.
the beat sound like if you didn't do that?
Okay. Oh. That's without, and now with. Makes like a tiny difference, but I think it makes enough difference to do it.
Yeah,
So
I think personally I would say that it makes a decent difference in the sound. It's not
yeah,
that subtle as, for example, using that clipper on the main group you showed a few minutes ago. That's a
yeah,
cool,
no,
cool trick. I like it.
yeah. And then maybe one more, something like this, a little bit more stereo. Take away a bit of the attack because I already have enough attack in this one. Yeah. So this one adds a little bit more high end and a little bit more stereo width. So this is one of my favorite rides. It's from Kashmir Pack. Just really clean. I said nice ring. And I'll take like the first part and duplicate it, and then the first one I lower in volume. So you get like the pump in effect again. Kind of, not yet. And then I'll take an amp and destroy it a little bit more. Let me see. First. A bit of an annoying. Yeah, and then I'll take the same kickstart from the percussion loop and throw it on the high-end loop. consolidate it and try pitching it around. Most of the time, like pitching it lower works nice with Schranz. Yeah. Something like that, so I'll need to change the nice. Yeah. And like I said, now that I had at the ride and the hi-hat, I think like it sounds already more like a distorted loop, in my opinion. I'm pretty happy with how this sounds. I don't think maybe I don't think it needs a lot more distortion. Maybe on this one, you can use trash. And I like using the multi-band distortion from trash.
Okay, and why? For what reason?
Most of the time I want to distort the mids heavier than the highs and the sub. In this case, there's not really sub, but like as maybe like for a kick, I want to leave the sub alone, so I'll use only the mids and highs, and yeah, I'll distort the mids and highs like different from each other.
Oh, I thought that's because when you will apply distortion on the high ends too, again we would end up with a loop that is too bright.
Yeah, so like in this case, it's for that reason also, yeah. So first do the context. Yeah, so it brings out those mids again.
Yeah,
A little bit
exactly.
more.
What I just wanted to say is that as for now, it doesn't seem like we have been using equalization a lot, yet the beat seems to sound both full and it doesn't sound annoying as well in regards to the high end. So my question is, are you achieving that sound just through using this many distortion effects? Because we have much more saturation and distortion effects than equalizers. So there is, I'm trying to, yes, come up with a reason for why this beat sounds that either full or clean, despite not using that much of equalization.
Yeah, well, the first thing was of course like the sound selection, and if I thought they had already too much highs, I'll took them out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see an equalizer from almost all of them taking out a little bit of that high end. And then like in the amp distortion, I'm also taking out high end, or not taking it out, but distorting it less than the mids and the low end. So, and also like with the levels, being careful that the higher frequency loops are not like the loudest in the mix. Like that way, that kind of balancing makes for it that you don't have to EQ that much afterwards.
And
Also, like
the
the
extra thing
multiband.
is the multiband distortion in
Yeah,
trash too.
exactly. Yeah. So this the mids have a lot more distortion. This is like a little bit of saturation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So pretty.
Now I remember. Also, you used a mid-side equalization, a simple one, but it still gave us a large difference in the sound. In Pro
Yeah.
Q3, you had a high pass filter. Yes, the one that was set to around 300 Hz and was equalizing only the side part of your
Yes.
track.
Exactly. Yeah. So now, I just like thought it could be a little bit quieter. That's also something that I noticed, like in those old school Schranz tracks and like the newer ones. Like they used to be like a lot. This the percussion used to be a bit quieter, and like the rides would be really loud, like up front.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also a sound like that I like. But if you do it too quiet, then you're losing all that mid and lose all the power. So just try to find a nice balance in that. So I'm gonna give them a quick color because it's gonna be a bit annoying. All right, that's better. Yeah, for now I'm happy with how this sounds. So I'm gonna like start playing around with like a build-up and vocal, and maybe like some extra perk hits in the drop to drive it a bit more.
We are moving on to the arrangement part of today's
Exactly.
video.
Yeah. This is the vocal I found. I found it on Loop Clouds. It's a really like short vocal, but I think it's enough. to play with. Wanna pitch it up a little. Yeah, something like that. Sounds good. Maybe compress it a little bit. And a little bit of saturation. And like a short reverb to fill it a bit more in the mix.
I think what also could work well is making that reverb very wide in contrast to, for example, the kick drum that is almost in mono.
Yeah, exactly. So but most of the times when I play the vocal like together with the drop, I'll make a new layer, and that's what I'm gonna do in a second. And then I'll do it without the reverb because I think it like makes it a bit too messy.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanna I probably wanna take this part for the drop and loop it. Let me take these effects in the EQ. So without the reverb. And then I want that sidechain compression from the one we made earlier. All right. Yeah, I think that could be a nice filler. And then I'll play around with like the fills and stuff in the drop using the vocal.
Mm-hmm.
So
would that involve chopping the vocal even further?
Yeah, I just wanted like to say like repeat the last word, like something like that, and then on that get that booty, I wanna put a glitch plugin. Yeah. And I'll make like a quick like this, like a tape stop with some other effects. Maybe this. Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll put it in front of the clipper because sometimes this plugin, like when you use for the lo-fi or distortion, it can get like weird peaks and stuff, so the clipper takes care of that.
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah. And then maybe...
Also, what I can see is that when you have the vocal on which you used the glitch effect, this channel is a few decibels louder than the other one. Is that volume difference also left for a purpose? Because it also sounds well when suddenly the vocal becomes louder than the chopped parts of it.
Yeah, because now I'm gonna take out like the low end of the kick. So I think the difference can be useful to like fill that gap, but I haven't really looked at it yet, so need still figure it out. Yeah, that sounds good. I'll do a little automation. And then, as I said, like the sidechain, I'll also like turn off on the parts where the kick isn't playing or where the low end is out of it. So without the vocal, the fill sounds like this. I need to automate the glitch as well, of course. So. Yeah, that sounds like a good fill. And then this one I want to be a little bit more. This one shouldn't take up too much space in the mix because like the drums already take up almost everything in the mix.
For sure.
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Yeah, something like that is nice. And then for now, I think I will work on like a build-up, a kind of break build-up. So the build-up really makes like the difference on how the drop feels, like impact-wise. Because now we've heard this over and over again, so the build-up should like reset my ears a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so I can assume we will be now adding these sound effects instead of reusing the percussion and the kick drum we have been creating for the last, I don't know, 1 hour and a half.
Yeah. So I'll probably use like some sort of break beats, like a snare roll, some risers, some maybe crash or something, and I'll probably filter in like parts of the percussion loop, like filter it up to already introduce the groove. Yeah, so let me find a nice break beat. Yeah, jungle breaks. And this is a real classic. Maybe that's gonna be cool. All right. And then I like to layer it with like some sort of bass sound. Probably use Serum for that. And let me check real quick. So now I'm checking the key of the kick.
Mm-hmm.
A sharp. Yeah, I think A sharp, minor, D sharp will probably work fine. I think I'm gonna go for D sharp.
Okay, but probably it means that we will also have to pitch either up or down the vocals themselves. Or not.
I don't really think they're in a. Yeah, they're well in a key, but I'll just listen when I have the bass line. I'll just listen if it sounds right, and then
Okay.
I'll depend on that if I pitch it up or down. So probably something like this, like a nice thick Reese bass. I think it works on this key.
Any advice on creating basslines like this? Or again, we are thinking whether it sounds good, then it's good.
Yeah, so I want to go for like a bit of like a dark bassline. So like this E is just like one step above, one note above, and that's not really in the scale, but that gives it like that dissonance that makes it like sound a little bit like dark ish, and also like this like third, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure about my knowledge on notes and stuff, but yeah, so I just know that those two always work when you try to make your sound a bit darker. Keep bassline.
Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. booty. Get on the floor.
Maybe a little switch up.
Get on the floor if you got that booty. Got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that. Get on the floor if you got.
Place it a little bit before the drop.
Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor. Get on the floor. Get on the floor if you. Get on the floor if you got. Get on the floor if you. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got. Got that. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Yeah, that sounds.
So it seems like you are used to make melodies or bass lines without actually highlighting the scale. Everything is done by ears, yeah?
Yeah, I use this as well, but I try not to because like if you can check, yeah, like as I told, this one isn't in scale.
Yeah, probably.
This one is, but
yes.
it's just like for me. Otherwise, I'm going to keep to check like if it's in scale or not, instead of like listening how it sounds, if it's good. Like for me, it makes it a bit easier just to like play around. Otherwise, I'll just be too focused on, oh, is it in scale or is it? So that's why.
Yeah. Also, probably if this whole bassline doesn't fit the minor scale, it could probably fit into some more exotic one, like maybe a Phrygian or something else.
Yeah, I don't know my skills like that, so I'll believe you on that. All right.
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Maybe some more distortion, which I will automate.
Get on the floor. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you. Get on the floor.
Yeah. So now I can automate this one.
Get on the floor if you got.
Probably do like a little automation on the like slides to accentuate them a little bit more.
Get on the floor if you got that. Get on. Get on the.
Maybe distort it a bit more. Oh, yeah.
Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty.
All right. Okay.
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Let's give this one, the breakbeat, a little room as well. So short reverb, short size. Yeah.
Get on the floor if you got that.
This one.
Get on the floor if you got that. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty.
right. Now I'll work on like the build-up, and then we'll pre-drop. Maybe like repeat the last word. Filter it a little bit.
Get on the floor if you got that
Something like that. I'll also take the percussion, start to introduce that. Also with a filter, a little bit of resonance. Turn the sidechain off. Maybe for this part also the kick. So because of the rumble, I'll use a utility to like make sure it's quiet in the pre-drop.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just put the gain all the way down and automate the on-off. Yeah, simple as that. Okay. And I have another rack from the same YouTube channel I mentioned earlier, and this one adds like a low cut and delay reverb to give it like a build-up effect.
So some sort of a modulated noise for a riser.
Yeah, there is a noise and also pitch, but I don't use that, so I just only use like I can show it. So like the frequency shifter is turned off, and the erosion, that's like the pitch and the noise. I just use the low end, low cut, the delay, and the reverb from it.
Okay.
So automating the. Especially in this part, you can really without it. Like endless smell, but as a rack. Yeah, I think the idea is nice, but the low cut right here gives a little bit too much distortion, so maybe.
And that's because of that filter resonance, yes?
Yeah, exactly, because now it's boosting the low end, so it's distorting too much like in this group. So I'll just automate the resonance.
Okay.
Still a little bit too much. Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Got that
I want this one turned off. Maybe a snare roll.
Will we be
Simple.
using the glitch VST during the build-up as well?
Yes. To make like the transition from like the break to like the kick a bit easier. And maybe also like in the pre-drop. But I'll have to check. But then I'll probably use it on the master channel since I want to glitch the break and the vocal and the percussion together.
Okay.
Instead of like the one we got earlier right here. But first I want to go.
So from your experience, what other types of sounds could work well in the build-up? Now we have a something classic, that is some vocals or drum breaks and bass lines. Aside from that, do you find something else that is cool for maybe just whole Schranz beats? So if one wanted to make something, I don't know, maybe more experimental, something like that.
That's a good one. So for my like a Schranz remix I did, I like made like a sort of fake out drop where I used a different kick pattern. So instead of 4 on the floor, it was like I think something like this, I think. Yeah, something like that. I used that like that fake out and then dropped to the like 4 on the floor. That works really well, I think. Also what you hear nowadays a lot of in modern hard techno is like with the like the hard style kind of kicks. That
yes,
could be,
of course.
yeah, but that you could use that in a cool way. I think like Schranz and hardcore used to be combined a lot. So that, yeah, that you can take elements out of like hardcore ish things. But for my tracks, I like to like use your standards kind of things like the break breeze combined with like things from the Cashmere pack, like some sort of impacts and stuff to modernize it a little bit. So that's like effects. That's always the last thing I'll do in my tracks.
All right.
Yeah, something like that. Automate the gain. Alright. A bit shorter. and maybe like pitch envelope. Yeah, just like octave. Just complex.
And what does it sound like in solo? Nice.
Yeah. So simple snare riser. What else? Let me check the. Yeah, like these crowd things I like to use. Maybe. Yeah. Impacts. Maybe this one. Yeah, so just makes that transition a little bit better.
Exactly, and smoother.
Yeah, maybe like some more sweeps. Yeah, maybe this one.
And later, if you were to work with the details regarding the build-up, would you be using a reverb on these riser sound effects too, or because of the way these sounds sound like, you think it's not necessary to add an extra delay or reverb on these sounds you are adding now?
That really depends. Like sometimes I'll add like a more higher impact as well, so then that fills it up. But in some cases I'll use the reverb as well, yeah, to like give it a little tilt. And probably in this case would be nice. maybe I can take this, make it really short.
Got that booty.
A bit quieter.
Booty. Booty. Got that booty.
Yeah, just like push you a little bit more into the drop.
Yes, that worked well.
Yeah, I think that's really nice. So, yeah, probably I'll add like more like tonal riser, because now we have like this crowd / white noise. So like maybe one long, maybe something like that, like flanged. It could be cool.
Got that booty. Got that booty.
Yeah, I think that's nice. And
Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Floor if you got that
use this as a riser as well. With like the
Oh,
pitch automation.
with a pitch one, because I thought you were also automating the amount of distortion, yes, with the trash.
Yeah,
tone?
yeah, oh yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, also the distortion, and then cutting out like low ends, because if you have too much low ends before your drop will hit less hard. So I will always, like in my build-up, like keep the low ends out of it,
Okay.
so that drop like comes the full low end and hits like harder.
Get on the floor if you got that
All right.
Yes, indeed, that low end cuts right before the drop really helps with making
Yeah.
the drop itself stronger. What I also like to do is to automate the volume of the whole master channel, so the whole breakdown can be up to 2 decibels quieter than the drop
Yes.
itself.
Yeah, that's also a really nice trick I use sometimes as well. And sometimes I'll also use like on the utility, like the width,
Mm-hmm.
and make it like a bit less stereo, so the drop will sound fuller. So maybe something like I don't know, like this. And without. I think it makes a nice difference. Like because also there's like this Reese bass is really and this flanger is really wide.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
Okay. And for the glitches. Stop. Yeah, okay, thank you.
If I remember well, this glitch plugin is a paid one, but there was also some freeware version of it available.
Yeah,
Am I right or not?
Yeah, I think this used to be free. Because I can't remember that I bought it. Maybe it was free for like a little while. But there's also like if D Blue Glitch, I think it's called. That's the free one, right? Yeah. Yeah, and this is But I think this is not really that expensive because otherwise I would have like remembered
You
that I
wouldn't
bought it.
have bought it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I can also recommend the Isotope Stutter Edit too. It's also a similar effect as a glitch one. So the effect from Isotope is a bit difficult to configure because it is a MIDI instrument, not an VST effect. I don't know who have thought of that. But now the plugin boutique you can buy the Isotope Stutter too for like $5.
Yeah,
it's so cheap.
I have that one as well. But I found it too much of a hassle to use, so that's why I bought this one. All right, let me check. Sometimes I like make my own presets. Sometimes I scroll through them. This one. Go. Okay, this one is nice. Automate the on-off. Yeah, that works. That works nice.
I think it is the first time I am seeing someone using such a glitch VST in techno. When I recall, I haven't heard any of that stuff earlier.
Yeah. So like my thought process of it was like in those old Schranz tracks, you can hear like the gross beat plugin being used for those kind of fills, and I can't get that one for Ableton, or maybe you can nowadays, but you used to not do that because it's for Ableton or for FL Studio. So I was like, what's the closest thing to gross beat like this that does kind of the same thing, and that was like a glitch plugin. So that's why I use that instead of gross beat. But so for like FL Studio users, you can use the gross beat plugin.
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Okay, now I'm gonna copy this.
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Maybe mini. Yeah, something like that.
Get on the floor. Get on the floor.
Put a little delay on it.
Get on the floor if you got that. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor.
Yeah, like that. So it introduces like the switch to the vocal.
Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty. Get on the floor if you got that booty.
No,
I
it
think
sounds
that
dope.
sounds like a pretty good like first session of the track. I'm pretty happy about this.
And
Yeah.
this is what you would say is a, let's say, solid fundamental, which means that later you would only, for example, expand the arrangements, maybe add a few more sounds. But the
Yeah,
idea of the track is now drawn, created in this 40 seconds long
yeah,
arrangement.
exactly. Most of the time, like if I have like this, I'll probably stop producing, like don't listen to it for like a day, listen to it tomorrow, and then I'll come with like new ideas, or I hear like, oh, there's something that doesn't sound that nice, I'll change it, or something like that. Because if I work, like if I want to finish it right now and work on it for a few more hours, my ears get too tired, and so I have to like my attention always goes away, like and my attention span is not that long, so that's why I make like something short and then come back tomorrow, work on it again.
Okay,
Yeah,
so in the very end, because we will be slowly wrapping this video, any maybe general advice on what you could give to either producing Schranz beats or just to beginner producers that could be now following through this whole video?
yeah. I think what I struggled with like the most when I started making Schranz is I wanted to do too much, especially with like creating the drums. So like too much layers. I use a lot of layers, but I select layers that fit well together. Like they all have a purpose. So some for the mids, some for the highs, some for like the uniqueness. And I used to do like layer every cool loop I found, and that would really clash. And also like for the processing, like it's not that much. It's all pretty subtle, and but in the end, it's still like a full sound. So just keep it simple. Um, don't try to like do like too much like on here, like as we spoke about, like on the main group. Try to keep it simple, because if you do too much, then it could really like fall apart, and then it's hard to fix. So just try to do it simple, and afterwards you can also always add more.
Okay, and in what way
Yeah.
would that be difficult to fix if you maybe by accident maybe not use too much of the sounds as you described?
Yeah, so if you used like for example, I used like a lot of loops that all like sounded the same, or processed it like a bunch, and then I'll try to mix it in with the kick, and it just won't fit. And you try to go back to it, and like it's gonna be like a lot of too much back and forth, and I think it's really hard to get the like the good balance between them afterwards. So if you do too much at the start, like when you have the whole track together, then it's gonna be harder to go back and edit things, because then let's say for example I have like a lot of processing here and also on the main group, and when I change stuff here, it's gonna sound it's gonna go different through these plugins. So
Mm-hmm.
that's like something you have to keep in mind. Like it's harder to go back. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, I hope you understand.
Yeah, probably to change something on an individual element, we would also later to readjust the effects we have on the groups too.
Yeah, exactly. So like try to get them right when you start. Also like with this all these EQs, like taking the high end out. If I didn't do that and I was like here or afterwards, like tomorrow, I'm hearing like, oh, now there's too much high end, then and I'll go back to all of these, then all these distortions would work differently because I'm like taking out high end before the distortion. So that's something you have to keep in mind.
Okay.
I used to forget a lot about when I started producing.
Thank you very much for having this session with me once again, where we indeed created a decent Schranz beat from scratch with a simple arrangement. What can I say? I can only wish you luck in your next productions, so you are going to be even more successful as a producer.
Thank you.
Get on,